We're just going to revisit the Tesla cell tap again because several people have written in about how to go about it, or the best way to go about it, because the new version of the modules has got the ribbon connectors on, which are extremely volatile and can be ripped quite easily. So the first thing we do is obviously get the module on the table. First thing we want to do is have the terminals pointing upwards, and then take your tape off first of all. And try and be careful, and we obviously can just use other tape if you don't manage to reuse it. So, and then you would think you would carry on and do the cell tap from here, but what we're going to actually do is we're going to release the little plastic catches and tags. They're just kind of like hooked in underneath there, so the biggest thing I'd say with this is really take your time. Don't rush it at all. This is going to be one of those slow and methodical jobs. Right, the first thing I'll do is take the cover off, come down the other end, and you'll see that these other two plastic clips here are just literally clipped underneath like that and that. So you don't have to break them, you just have to fold them back. It's a bit fiddly and can take a while to do. There we go. Okay, that's your first top bit off. Now once you've got that first one off, you've got the terminals facing you, you're not going to start doing the module until you've turned it over and got the other plastic bit off. Now it's good practice to have it on a solid table and also having an overhang. Right, there we go, that's that bit off. Now these two bits are just stuck on a little bit down here, and they can rip off. You just have to prise them off these two little tabs at the bottom of the modules here and here, and that's where these two usually get stuck down on. So there we go, we've got the plastic casing off. We've got the battery solid on a nice place, nice position, because you don't want to be breaking your back doing this and you want an overhang. So the first thing we're going to do is you're using the smaller 3-pin ribbon connector with the battery terminals facing down. This is where you're going to start. You're taking a very fine screwdriver like this, and you need to get in under this little tag here and pull it up, and use the leverage of the screwdriver very carefully. And you see how delicate they are. I have ripped one of them before. Now if you do happen to rip one, you can use this connector still, or you can run, as you can see on the top of the battery here, it says 3, yeah, and then 5, and then the other one is up here, the other connection point. So you can actually take a separate strand of wire and put it into here and run it down this strip into there, into this connector, and solder it in. And then you obviously would want another wire at this point on the series 5, and then there's the series 1 there. So we've got 1, 5 and 3, and you'll need to put them on where they're linked to. So 1 is linked to this one here, 5 is linked to there, and 3 is linked to there, and you'll need to channel that and run the strands down into the connector and then solder them in. That's if you manage to fray that connector. Hopefully you won't do that. Right, whilst we're up this end, we may as well see if we can prise these little pin things out. Now, sometimes when you've got thick nails, you can either get your nails underneath and pull it out like that, but sometimes you can't, and they're a real pain. So what I've found is if you use a screwdriver and a nail, you can actually pull it together and pull it out as best you can to about there. And then needle nose pliers, and you want to pull straight. That's the first pin. Pull straight again, get the second pin out, and they're just the 2 pins that are holding these little connectors that go into here. You can just see them, they kind of splay out, and when you put the pin in, it holds them in place. So now that we've done that, we can now spin the battery over. These are quite heavy, probably about 60 kilos each, I think. Oh. And that is why you always have it on the overhang, so you're not going to damage the cables. Right, now we're on to this one. Now you need to really get on the floor and do the same thing again by putting your screwdriver in there and forcing that little clip out that you can see. You won't be able to see it probably on the video, but and once the clip is released, you can slowly wiggle it up. And this is the one you really don't want to be damaging. So do this very, very slowly. There we go. So now we've got that ribbon connector out. We've got that ribbon connector out. And now we're going to see if we can get the other two little pins out. Oh, that one's come out easy. See, some of them just come out with a pull of your fingers, whereas this one is stuck in. I can pull it out a little bit. And now I'm going to pull it out with a needle nose pliers. So we're now at the stage where we've got the two ribbons free. The temperature connector is still connected, but don't worry about that. We'll get that out in a minute. Right, the first thing I'm going to do is see if I can prise this like that. So I've used the leverage of this top cell and leverage of there to pull these out. And I'm just going to pull these two connectors out now. And now I'm onto the bottom ones. Same sort of thing again, a little bit of leverage. As I said, it's quite a sort of patient type of job. And with something that's costing so much money, you don't really want to rush it anyway. So there we go, there the pins out. Right, now this bit you want to be holding the card in your hand, because the next and last bit will be the temperature sensors, which is just here. Now for these you have to push this little clip down and try, you can use a screwdriver if you want. I've kind of got used to using my nails, they are quite hard, and gradually keep that pressure on that back plate, the back of the switch, and then just gently wiggle it. Slowly but surely it will come out. And there we go. That is the original Tesla BMS, which would have connected all the modules together and talked to the central BMS on the car. So we go over to our friends again at zeroev.co.uk. And there's details when I wired the last on the last video. There's details of the American site as well. So that's what the replacement board looks like. It's got what's called a Molex connector in, which look like these. I think that Zero EV are selling them, but they're quite easy to get, and they come with a load of pins as well, which when you wire them together, that's the pack of pins they come with. If you buy them on eBay as well, or other sites, that's how they'll come. They'll come a Molex connector with, and they'll usually come with pins as well. So you've got your two ribbon cables and your Molex connector. So the first thing is we're going to do it in reverse now. So we're going to connect the temperature sensor back in the board until it clicks in. I heard it click then. And then the next one we're going to do is the bottom one, because I can see that nice from here, and I can put a little pressure on and that clips in. And last but not least is the top connector, which we're now going to wiggle in. And this is usually the most fussy one to get in. Once you've got it lined up, that's fine. And you want to hold the board with your hand whilst you get the first two top ones in, just to secure it. Don't push them all the way in, because you've just got something to check first. So at this stage I give it a nice firm pressure either side, just to make sure that it clicked in properly. And before we go putting everything back together, let's check the voltages. So you need a DC meter, and what we're going to do first of all, we're going on to DC. and we're going to check the overall voltage, which is 20.20 volts. And the next thing we're going to do is, you can see on the module here, we've got the negative, and then we've got 654321. These are the series cells, temperature 1, temperature 2, temperature 1, temperature 2. So that's left hand side, right hand side. So if we now look down at the Molex connector, what we're going to do is we're going to connect that negative, and we're going to see what reading we get. 3.35, 6.72, 10.09, 13.46, 1683, and this will be 20.2. Yep, so that's the final voltage. That way that you know this Molex connector is working, number one, and everything is connected in correctly. And once we're happy with that, then we can push these little connector caps back into the board and secure the board in. And then we're going to put the pins in. And you can push these in with your thumb. Some of them are a little bit tighter than others. So if you have a problem where you get resistance, you can use a little tap hammer, or alternatively you can get the back of your screwdriver and just gradually do that like a hammer action until he goes in. And some of them do take a little while to get in, but they will go in. And this really secures it in. I found the 2-nail method to be probably the best way, but sometimes you haven't got the strength in your nails, and you have to use a little hammer just to make sure they're all in. Now that's nice and solid. That's all nice and solid. Now what I'd now normally do is put all of the casing back on, and then I'd use some gaffer tape or other tape, heat tape, around the plastic to keep it all in one place. And then obviously use electrical tape and mark the positive and negative either side, so that you know when you come to put them up in a setup, you know exactly what's what. Then all you need to do is follow the other video that I did, which is actually then cabling up the Molex connector to what BMS you wish to use, whether it be an Orion Junior or a different type of BMS, which will then keep the cells in balance. And you can then mount that there or there, depending on how whether your cells are going to be in horizontal or vertical mode. And that, guys, is it. Hopefully that's helped some of you out. See you soon.